Take this job and shove it.
We are back. You are listening to Jobcast Radio, and I am Mike Baumgartner, your host on this episode about how to survive the face-to-face interview and actually get the job. Now, we've talked about the absolute basics, how you should dress, how you should prepare, how you should be there, how you should be taking care of yourself in the office, watching out for your body language. Remember, if you're nervous, if you're crossing your arms, you're crossing your legs, if you're leaning back, you're leaning forward, the interviewer is watching all of this. Some really good interviewers, some really good people who really like this kind of stuff, they're going to be even crueler. They're going to say, tell you what, leave your stuff here. Let's go for a walk. And they'll take you for a walk. In fact, if they can put a cup of coffee in your hand, something to actually distract you, they're going to do that as well. Why? Because, again, this is a first date. And you will meet the parents, and that means you'll probably meet a lot of other people, the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, all the people that you get to interview with. You'll meet the kids as you get to interview with them. And then at the end of this, you get married. That's essentially what it is. So if you keep that in your mind, if you keep thinking about that this is one date with someone you've never met, you may have talked on the phone, and at the end you're getting married. Now, remember, this is a wedding that will actually pay you. That's a good guide of how you should dress, how you should act, and how you should behave in an interview situation. However, behavioral interviewing, it started up 10, 15 years ago, but now they've got it down to a really, really good science. And the latest trend that is coming out are what is called negative questions, or actually, I don't know if it's called that. It's what I call them, negative questions. They're questions designed to make you give a negative answer because they want to see how you deal with it, number one. And number two, it's very hard to answer the question without talking about yourself negatively. One of the favorite ones that I hear now is tell me about a boss that was just really a bad boss. Why was that person a bad boss, and how did you deal with that? Now, this is a landmine. Why? Because, number one, you don't want to talk bad about anybody in your past, period. Because I think if you talk bad about somebody in an interview, you're going to be talking about me that way when you go for your next job. Do not speak negatively. Speak honestly, but not negatively. So don't roll your eyes and talk about, oh my gosh, this guy was a megalomaniac, we just didn't get it. Do not do that, especially when talking about a person who was in a level of authority. You need to focus on something about it that is positive for you. So think of it this way. Yes, I had a boss who really, he was very demanding and had quite a temper. But I learned how to work around that, and it made me a better employee. Now you've turned it into a positive. Talk about what you learned in that situation and how it has changed you into being a better employee. Other questions that you'll find. What would your previous employer change about you? There again, this question is designed to make you speak negatively about you. On top of that, it's going into third person so that they're thinking, if it's not about what you would change, what would somebody else say about you? Your reflex is to be very candid. Oh, well, they would have me want to do this, but, I wouldn't want to do that. My company, if they could change anything, they would make me put, all of my work down on a calendar. Oh, well, what you've just told me is you're not all that organized. Or you may sit there and say something that ties directly into the job you're applying for. Please make sure on these behavioral questions that you do not basically vote yourself off the island because you admit that you can't do something that is fundamental to the job. If I ask you, what could your past employer improve about you, and I'm applying for a finance job, the first thing I am not going to say is, I'm really bad at math. I just can't figure out where that decimal place goes. Or at least that's what they think, because they were always telling me that my numbers were wrong. Well, okay, I'm not going to give you a job in finance or a job with numbers because I know that you don't have accuracy. Be careful how you answer that. Always you want to turn it into a learning experience or somehow, that made you better. If it's something as simple as like, my boss told me my handwriting was really, really, really bad. Well, if I'm going to need you to be doing a lot of writing and you've got bad handwriting that nobody can read, well, you need to figure out how to fix that one. So you turn around on that saying, my boss, had pointed out to me that my handwriting was difficult to read. So I made it a point that every communication piece that I did was typed and sent out. That's easy. For me, look, I'll be honest with you. My handwriting, doctors look at me with amazement. If you've ever seen a doctor's handwriting, it's a wonder we are all still alive given how their handwriting is. My handwriting, horrifically bad, which is why my parents, God bless them, sent me to typing class in high school. And I got really good at typing. I type faster and better than I do writing. That's fine. And now I've got smartphones and I have iPads and I have all these different things that if I need to convey a message, if I need to put something down, I don't need to write it anymore. In fact, there's software out there that if I write it on a tablet or on the computer, it turns it into text. Think about that. You can also turn the thing that is your greatest weakness into your biggest strength. Think about those things. Talk about, if somebody asks you, what would somebody in your past list as your 3 weakest points? Pick something that was 5-6 years ago and then talk about how you're better for it because you've overcome it and you've made it a lot better. Do not fall for the trap of, okay, well, that was my last question. So what do you do in your spare time? You hang out with the kids? All those kinds of questions. Never relax in this interview. Never, ever relax. Never assume that the interview is done and that the interviewing is finished and that now you can just sort of, just shoot the crap and just get casual and let your hair down. Don't ever, ever, ever think that because they will remember everything all the way up to what you say when you say goodbye. Because I, as a candidate, are listening as well. Because I'll tell you, when they see, at the end of the interview, they shake your hand and go, well, HR will be in touch with you. We'll let you know. We got a few other candidates. Odds are you didn't get the job. If they say, hey, I'll be in touch in a couple of days or we'll move forward on da-da-da, that, what they say. Good. And especially if the person who interviewed you said good luck, that usually means good luck on your next job search. Don't let it show on your face. Just deal with it and move on. Don't be afraid and have prepared questions. When the interviewer is done asking questions, the questions you ask are going to say also as much about who you are as a person. So when they say, do you have any questions about the position? If you don't, then you should talk about how other people who have answered your questions and what those questions were. However, it would not be bad to have a little crib sheet or even something written down in your notebook, and you should be taking notes during your interview, even if you have crappy handwriting. Have some questions prepared because it shows that you're interested in the job. If you don't say, I want this job, why are you interviewing? Let them know that you are hungry for this job. Not any job. Do not look desperate. But that you want this job. I have had 3 candidates who were absolutely equal many times, and I didn't know which one to pick until one of them said, I really want this job. I can rock in this job. Give me this job. Don't be afraid to ask for the job. If you're shy, then ask for it in the follow-up email. By the way, always, always, always a nice handwritten letter or follow-up email to each and every person that you spoke with. Absolutely necessary. You want to build a relationship. Remember, you're getting married to these people, so it might want to say, thank you for the date. It was really, really nice, and I enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you again at the wedding. That being your job offer and your first day at work. So think all of these things through. An interview, there's so much science into it, and I know there's 100,000 books on it. Here is the best single piece of advice to getting the job you want and should be in, and the easiest way to get one. Be yourself. Do not try to be somebody else. Do not think that you're reading the company culture, that you think the company culture is all about being gung-ho and jumping into it and take no prisoners, and then all of a sudden you, who are a pretty nice guy and really not into that gung-ho thing, all of a sudden you put on this mask and you're pretending to be somebody else. And no, don't do that. Because even if you get the job, you are miserable. And I understand that you may be desperate for the job and you'll take any job, but you have to be who you are. Because if they like who you are, then they're going to hope you win. And they're going to help you be great in the job. That's what you need to focus on. Because who you are and who they are, again, do you want to be in a good marriage or a bad marriage? And if you know it's going to be a bad marriage when it starts, do you still say, I do? Unfortunately, a lot of people do, especially in the job market. I know you're starving. I know you're scared. I know unemployment is running out. But taking a bad job will not make things any better, because you don't want on your record a job you worked in 3 months and either they fired you or you quit. Isn't going to help you out. Now, you got more questions, you got a specific example you want to talk it through, you give me a call, 304-867-4142, 304-867-4142, or you can shoot me an email, mike@jobcastradio.com. Check out my website. We've got videos, we've got articles, I've got all kinds of stuff from all around the world to give you advice. I'm here for you. Feel free. Check us out. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Take this job and shut it.